sinking of the RMS Titanic remains one of the most famous and heartbreaking tragedies in maritime history. Today, most people have heard the story of the Titanic, but let's take a moment to revisit the basics. It was advertised as unsinkable. The construction of the Titanic began in Belfast, Ireland in 1909. After 3 years of work, the ship was finally completed and prepared for its very first voyage across the ocean. The journey was set from Southampton to New York. Along the way, some passengers boarded in France and Ireland before the ship headed out across the Atlantic toward New York. But sadly, the Titanic never reached its destination. 4 days into the voyage, it struck an iceberg in the middle of the ocean. It took only 2.5 hours for the ship to sink. The lifeboats were enough for just half of the passengers, and sadly, more than 700 people did not survive. The Titanic was known as a passenger liner. Alongside her two sister ships, the Olympic and the Britannic, she was built by the White Star Line Company. The Titanic sank after striking an iceberg. Later, the Britannic met its fate during World War I when it hit a mine, while the Olympic enjoyed a successful career spanning nearly 24 years. The ship measured 269 meters in length. To put that into perspective, let's make a few comparisons. The ship's full name was RMS Titanic, with RMS standing for Royal Mail Ship. Let's take a closer look at some of the ship's details. The front of the ship is called the bow, while the back is known as the stern. Instead of left and right, sailors use the terms port and starboard. The Titanic had 4 funnels. Coal was burned in the lower decks and smoke rose up through the funnels. Only 3 of the funnels were functional. The 4th was mostly added for aesthetic purposes, though it also helped with ventilation. The 2 large masts, or poles, served as supports for radio antennas and were also used to hoist flags. At the front of the ship, atop the mast, you can see the lookout's platform. This was the spot where the lookout first spotted the iceberg, though unfortunately it was slightly too late. The Titanic had 3 massive propellers beneath the water. To put it in perspective, here's a comparison with the size of a human. The propellers were powered by the ship's massive engines. This ship was designed and built over a century ago. That means all of this incredible engineering was designed entirely by hand, without any computers or 3D design software. The Titanic had 10 internal decks. The topmost deck was called the boat deck, and the decks below it were labeled from A to G. Each of these decks also had another name, and the 2 lowest decks were finally called the orlop deck and the tank top. On the Titanic, passengers were divided into 3 classes. The third-class cabins were located down here, toward the lower decks, and this is where the second-class passengers were accommodated. The first-class passengers were housed on the highest decks, enjoying the best views. On the Titanic in 1912, passengers were divided into 3 main classes, each reflecting stark differences in social status, occupation, and lifestyle. The first-class passengers were the wealthy elites, aristocrats, powerful industrialists, and famous merchants. Famous figures included John Jacob Astor IV, one of the richest men in America, Benjamin Guggenheim, the American industrialist, and Madeline Astor, Astor's young wife. Features: they stayed in the most luxurious cabins and suites. They dined in elegant restaurants and enjoyed amenities such as a swimming pool, gymnasium, library, and music lounge. Formal attire and high social standing were part of their lifestyle. Second-class passengers: they were middle-class individuals, university professors, clergymen, doctors, office workers, and average families. Features: they enjoyed comfortable accommodations, though not as lavish as first class. Their cabins were smaller but clean and well-equipped. They had their own dining hall and leisure spaces, with a level of service comparable to a fine hotel. Third-class passengers: they were mostly poor immigrants from Europe, Irish, Scandinavian, Italian, Armenian, and others, traveling to America in search of a better life. Features: their cabins were simple and at times crowded. They were served simpler meals, though still of a higher standard compared to most other ships of that era. Entertainment was more informal, often with dancing and folk music shared among themselves. The tragedy struck on the night of April 14, 1912, into the early hours of April 15. Sadly, about 1,500 lives were lost,